Hello, hello. This is the My Artifact episode number 4041. Today's date is sorry. Today's date is May 7, 2026. It's been almost like exactly 8 a.m. Okay, okay. It's very warm in here. It's not really that warm. It's a little bit cold, but not that cold. Yeah, it's a summer, but like it's a morning, something like that. Okay, yeah. Whatever. Let's just jump into the question. Let's go. Okay, the question is, how will I stop the voice recognition? Okay, first of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? I wanted to build a app called My Artifact. What exactly is this app? When you wrote the diary every single day, you can't write the diary the way that you think it is. Why? Because when you think is much more faster than you write. Okay, that's why, like, we think a lot but written texts are very small. Another thing, we write so slow, it depends on so many factors. Pen, pencil, paper, convenience, spelling mistakes, lot of stuff. Okay, yeah. So because of this thing, we cannot able to be kind of like express the way that we wanted to be, because these are all our constraint. Okay, so that's why we cannot able to be share our thoughts properly, and that's why very less people are kind of like doing a journaling and things and that. But I but I but I realized that what if I could kind of like a change from kind of like a something like a writing a diary to recording a diary, like audio recording a diary. This would be kind of like a really cool. Okay, yeah. Like instead of kind of like someone wrote the diary, they are kind of like a recording audio diary. Okay, recording audio. Okay, yeah. And I call that artifact. Okay, that audio file, I call that artifact. This is My Artifact episode number 4041. I am doing this thing for almost like a past 11 years, and it's a kind of like a self-reflection process. Writing a journal, writing a diary, or recording artifact is a self-reflection process. The amount of value it add inside of me, the person that I am today and the person I will become tomorrow, it is all because of artifact. And artifact changed my life. The amount of value it add inside of me, I can't tell you that. It's like really amazing. It's a kind of like somebody experience that thing. I realized that because of this technicality, because of this process, I getting this kind of like a value. I wanted to share this process. I wanted to share this technicality to the people so that they should supposed to be get the value from their artifact, right? So how do I supposed to do that? How do I supposed to do that? Well, by building an application. Okay, like My Artifact. Now my application or My Artifact is a kind of like a somewhat something like a YouTube. Okay, in the YouTube platform, you kind of like a simply upload your video, other people sees your video. It's a kind of like a same that you record your artifact, other people kind of like a listen your artifact. The only one thing is that I'm kind of like a giving the privacy to the user, that no one will gonna know their real name or their real identity. Okay, like they have kind of like they utilize their kind of like a random username. Like basically, let's just say my name is Saurabh Authare, but my artifact handle should supposed to be named as a Prozac 1943 or Jackson 41 or things and that, so that I would kind of like a keep the kind of like a user private. This is very much essential. Okay, yeah. So this is my application. Okay, yeah. But before I wanted to execute this application, right now I'm building this application, by the way. But before I wanted to execute, I wanted to aware of all the possible consequences, that what might be things went right, what might things went wrong, uh, how do I supposed to, like, I wanted to know every possible things, like a what kind of like a problem I might gonna face in the future regarding about this application and things and that. Okay, so I went to ChatGPT. I said that this is my idea, this is my app idea. I wanted to build this application. I wanted to know all the possible consequences, right, wrong, all the possible consequences. So suggest me almost like a hundreds of questions, so that I would kind of like ask me those hundreds of questions, so that I would be aware of all those possible consequences. So ChatGPT kind of like suggest me hundreds of questions, and this is one of those questions. By the way, the question actually in the mobile phone, but while recording I can't do fiddle and things and that. So that's why I wrote the question in here. By the way, this is the new book that I'm reading, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Highly recommend to you to read this book. Okay, now okay, one thing is that how do I supposed to kind of like stop the voice recognition. Okay, what is exactly voice recognition? What exactly is this thing? Okay, so basically is this thing na it's my platform is an audio based platform. There is no video at all. Okay, yeah. Like basically you might kind of like seeing this artifact will gonna upload it on YouTube platform. YouTube is a audio and visual platform, but my platform is a kind of like a simply audio based platform, only audio based platform. There is no visual at all. Okay, the kind of like somebody is this thing na when the people will kind of like record the artifact, okay, other people might gonna recognize. Okay, how other people might gonna recognize? Because we are kind of like understand the voice, okay, and we recognize the voice. Let's just say Shah Rukh Khan is a voice, like everyone knows how the Shah Rukh Khan voice is actually this thing, how the Amitabh Bachchan voice and things and that. Okay, so basically if the Shah Rukh Khan kind of like a recording artifact, or Amitabh Bachchan kind of like a recording artifact, I'm not really sure why does they do that, but take an example, is the Shah Rukh Khan kind of like a recording artifact, then his voice will kind of like assembly, like most of people will gonna recognize, and most of people is gonna say this is a Shah Rukh Khan, even if the Shah Rukh Khan name as a handle as a kind of like a something like a Sweet Beauty 89. I don't know why it did that, but yeah, whatever. So in that situation, how do I supposed to, like, basically in this situation privacy get violated na. Okay, like people know who is that particular person. So in that situation, how do I supposed to kind of like somebody make sure that people will kind of like something people will kind of like not recognize the Shah Rukh Khan voice? Well, simple is that use voice modulation. Okay, yeah. What's the voice modulation? Voice modulation is a kind of like a technique that you kind of like simply like a use kind of like a different tone or different kind of like a setting, like a basically change the pitch, change the kind of like a pitch of the sound. Okay, how is that possible? Let's just say like select the audio layer, like this is the audio layer. Okay, yeah. Select it, right click, set duration 100 to maybe kind of like a 80 or maybe 120 or 150. So it's squeeze or maybe it's stretch. When it squeeze or stretch, it change the pitch. When it change the pitch, the kind of like a voice modulation happened. It just sounds very different. Okay, yeah. But still it is not really good, because still people will recognize. Okay, yeah. Another option I have is that like a AI voice cloning, which is kind of like a really popular, by the way. Using voice clone to add a kind of like this is the original layer. Voice clone is actually happened on the upper layer, and kind of like somebody that most of the people will kind of like listen as voice clone, and the people who have real voice, they have kind of like somebody just mute. Okay, yeah, this is would be kind of like a much more better way. I would gonna do that, but this kind of like a things is not applicable for most of the people. Okay, it's only and only people for like a basically for kind of like such a people who are already kind of like a things that their privacy might gonna get compromised. Okay, Okay, why am I not kind of like somebody give you this feature for everybody? Because it takes a lot of processing. Okay, yeah. The artifact should supposed to be like basically every artifact goes through multiple process. First of all, recording artifact, like the user will kind of like record the artifact. It went through first of all it went through kind of like a some audio cleanup process, like whatever the background noise and things and that it remove that thing, then kind of like enhance the vocal things. This is the first process. Second process is that entire kind of like a some artifact converted into the text, converted into the subtitle. Okay, yeah, which is eventually kind of like a somebody help for kind of like a user that key. If I said something, any kind of like a words or things that might kind of compromise my privacy, so that yeah, like a basically like a Adam is a kind of like an algorithm who kind of like a something that he remove all those noun in the subtitle, so that kind of like a clean without any kind of like a name or without any identification this artifact should supposed to be. Yeah, because like a basically Adam should supposed to be know what is actually noun. Like my name is Saurabh Bothre. Saurabh Bothre is noun. At the spur of the moment I mention my name, so basically Adam kind of like add the mute over there. My name is beep. Okay, yeah. So basically the first layer is that key audio cleanup layer. Then another kind of like a process will gonna happen that key convert audio into the text, and that text converted into the figure it out to what is actually noun, and whatever the noun is actually found, add the beep over there. So this is another processing actually happened. And after that processing, then if I'm gonna say this thing add voice modulation, it will take another layer of processing. Okay, yeah. Voice modulation is kind of like even more like a basically figure it out that which kind of like a audio layer should you supposed to be add and things and that. So there is a multiples of kind of like assembly. There is a multiples of kind of like assembly that key layering and processing actually happen in audio platform, in audio layer. Okay, yeah. And basically is this thing I am not doing this for kind of like a one or two layer. I'm doing this thing for almost like a millions of audio artifact and things and that, and it's not really possible for me to do this thing. Okay, yeah, because first of all it takes so much amount of time to process. Okay, yeah, I will try to make sure that it should supposed to be have minimum time, but it takes a lot of amount of time because people will kind of record the artifact. I have to be kind of like a process millions of artifact, and obviously is this thing that is, oh my god. Okay, so this is kind of like a very much hectic in technical point of perspective. Okay, yeah. And that's why I'm kind of like thinking that the voice modulation process is actually voice modulation technique is only for such a people who are already established, already kind of like a thing is that their voice should supposed to be kind of like recognized by the people. For those people, add this kind of like some things, add this kind of like some voice modulation process. Okay, not for everybody. Okay. And if I'm kind of like allowing, I don't know how do I supposed to do that. Maybe I'm charging some sort of money from them or things like that. I'm not really sure, but probably takes a lot of amount of thing. But let me tell you. Okay, yeah, let me tell you. I am recording artifact for past 11 years. Okay, I am not a kind of like a very top person. I am not any kind of like a things and that. Okay, yeah. But till now, okay, yeah. But when you are kind of like somebody listening this artifact, okay, yeah, when you are watching this video on YouTube platform, at that time I already established a kind of like a personality. Okay, yeah. I already became a something that bigger. Okay, yeah. And probably is this thing that key when you watch this artifact, you know about my life much more better regarding about what is that my thought process and things and that. Okay, yeah. So basically I am compromising my privacy. Okay, yeah, to uploading this artifact on YouTube platform and things and that. Okay, yeah. So is it wrong? Is it wrong? Ask this question to yourself. Okay, yeah. Because let me tell you one thing, na. Everyone thinks that na ki whatever the information that they have, okay, yeah, they are very like a very private and things and that. Okay, yeah. And basically is this thing, if they wanted to share, they wanted to kind of like a things that keep like, yeah, like basically I just wanted to share, but I don't want my name attached with it or things and that. Okay, yeah. But dude, na, let me kind of like remind you things like that. Okay, yeah. When you record the artifact, at the beginning you might feel like that, you might kind of like somebody try to try to focus on privacy first. Like you are kind of like a focus on my privacy should supposed to be first, like a my privacy should supposed to be first, my privacy should supposed to be first. Okay, yeah. But when you talk in the artifact and you talk so well in the artifact that you just think that dude, I wanted to share my name in the artifact, because like most of the time actually happened now when I record the artifact, I talk so well that I just kind of like figure it out, dude, I talk like that. Okay, like kind of like feels like that. Ooh, that is so fuck. Okay, yeah. Like basically I am proud, but I'm proud of myself that I kind of like talk like this. Okay, yeah. And this is all actually happened, literally actually happened. Okay, yeah. Because we actually consider ourselves kind of like a very less, and that's why we are kind of like adding this protection layer and things and that. Okay, yeah. But when you record the artifact, like basically it will not gonna happen at the beginning, definitely not. Probably it will take almost like a 1 or 2 year, and after the 1 or 2 year, the way that you're gonna talk is so amazing that you are kind of like proud of yourself that oh my god, I'm talking like that. Okay, yeah. And when you are kind of like feel like that you are talking like that, you think that dude, like fuck the privacy, dude, I wanted to attach my name. Okay, I really wanted to attach my name. Okay, so basically this is what actually happened. Okay, privacy is essential, like yeah, definitely I understand this thing. Okay, yeah. But ask this question to yourself, what kind of like stuff that you are hiding? Like do you have any kind of like a nuclear codes or what? We all are humans, and we have kind of like some almost similar things to hidden. Okay, yeah. Who's my boyfriend, who's my girlfriend? Okay, I have this and that and that. It's not, it just kind of like things that like let me kind of like I'm giving you protection, I'm giving you privacy from the day one. Okay, I'm giving you privacy from the day one, from kind of like somebody that make sure that your username shouldn't supposed to be kind of like a mention or things and that, or maybe kind of like a username privacy or kind of like a voice modulation or whatnot. I'm trying to kind of like give you all privacy that you want. I'm gonna do that thing. Okay, yeah. But ask this question to yourself. Okay, yeah. When you record, it's a kind of like a new technicality, na. Like it's a kind of like a things that you love to share, dude. You love to share. Okay, yeah. Like literally, like why am I kind of like uploading this artifact even if I know the kind of like consequences which will gonna happen in the future? Okay, yeah. Because the stuff that I'm saying, and if I'm not implementing in the future, people will kind of like a question that, dude, you kind of like mentioned this thing years ago that you will gonna do this, and you haven't really done that. Have you ever understand that how many consequences I will gonna face in the future because of this artifact? Okay, yeah. Like this is what actually happened. Okay, yeah. And basically even after I know that I will kind of like face a lot of kind of like some like a wrong consequences because of this artifact, but I still gonna upload. Why? Because of that I wanted to know, I kind of like let them people know that what kind of like a changes will gonna happen. Look through all my artifacts. Like there are almost like 4,000 artifacts are actually available, and humanly it's not really possible to listen all of them. Okay, but kind of like realize that you understand that those changes actually happen, and it actually changes happen with you too, literally. So do not thinking about the privacy that much. I am trying to give you privacy, dude. I'm really sure. Okay, you are kind of like somebody is saying that like you are like basically at the early stage of your recording artifact, and you are wanting to kind of like stick with the kind of like a privacy and things and that. You can do this thing. Definitely, I'm providing everything, but sooner or later, like after you kind of like a record for almost like a 2-3 years, okay, yeah, I like basically what I kind of like realize. Okay, yeah, I will kind of like only give you the privacy feature regarding about the username. Okay, yeah. But after a kind of like some user are kind of like decided that no, like my privacy is not really that much essential. I wanted to attach my real identity, and my privacy shouldn't supposed to be kind of like my privacy should supposed to be unlocked. Yeah, like let's just yeah. So in that situation, basically is this thing, if the user want that they wanted to attach their real name, real identity and things and that, I will also allow them to do that thing. Okay, yeah, like I'm like, let that particular person decide that ki, like basically is this thing that if that user wanted that ki, no, I wanted to attach my real name, real identity, do not add any kind of like a privacy layer into my artifact, just kind of like a distribute my artifact through my original voice, original name, original things, and that, and I will kind of like simply I will kind of like responsible for all the possible consequences in the future. Okay, yeah. If the user are kind of like somebody that he accept this thing, then obviously I will kind of like let him share his artifact on his real name with a real username, like a real name with a real artifact. We do not have any kind of like a privacy filter, nothing really at all. Okay, but probably is this thing na ki I have to be do this thing very wisely, because of that na ki some people might gonna utilize for wrong purposes. Okay, and I have to be do this thing very privately regarding about that too. Okay, yeah. Okay, why am I kind of like saying this thing? Why am I like basically my first kind of like some example is that I have to give the privacy to the user, right? But why am I kind of like saying this thing that privacy is not really that much important? Why is that thing? The problem is not with the kind of like how much changes that you happen. Sometime what exactly happened that ki I have a government pressure. Okay, like basically I cannot hide you from the government. Even if I wanted to, I can't. Like, let me tell you one thing. If I'm kind of like providing my services, my artifact services to the, let's just say, European country, Germany. Okay, let's take a Germany. Okay, so German government, they will ask me, dude, like basically, like what is exactly happened now? This privacy filter, people will kind of like utilize for wrong purposes. How? Let me tell you one thing. People will gonna talk shit, people will gonna hate speeches, people will talk about kind of like things that was not really right. Okay, yeah. They will kind of like spread hates and things and that, and they will kind of like do it like a bluntly, because of that key there is no kind of like someone to look at, because I'm kind of like giving the privacy and things and that. Now because of this thing, obviously it's a very wrong artifact, and I do have another system to kind of like somebody judge the artifact regarding about that key, which artifact is really good and not and things and that, so that wrong artifact will not gonna share that much, not gonna recommend that much, and good artifact should suppose recommend much. Okay, so if you are kind of like somebody doing hate speeches and things and that artifact will not gonna recommend much. But still people will kind of like figure it out a way, because let me tell you one thing now, people are not really judged by what does say, people actually judge by how you say. Okay, example is this thing that key some people are kind of like some hate speeches with a kind of like a very like a using very different kind of like a tone, or different kind of like a basically comedy style, like a basically like a you are kind of like a being really funny way to kind of like a somebody criticize the government or things and hate speech and things and that, it kind of like a people will kind of like listen to you, like your artifact, and it will kind of like a recommend more, and it will recommend more, then okay, so this will gonna happen. So in that process, if the government realize that ki this artifact is a kind of like a somebody compromise our kind of like a compromise our like a doing hate speeches and things and that it affect our culture, religions, or any kind of like a government policies and things and that. Okay, yeah. So basically the German government will kind of like come to say this is a kind of like a user are kind of like spreading the hate and things and that I want to know who is that user, I wanted to block that user, I wanted to know everything regarding about that user, so that we would kind of like punish him and things and that. In that situation, what do I supposed to do? Okay, yeah. In that situation, what do I supposed to do? I have to give the detail, and like basically I don't really have a detail, because I'm not really collecting any kind of like a detail, because I don't know, because entire information about you is a kind of like a trim out in the application. Okay, yeah. So I have kind of like a clean slate of kind of like artifact which doesn't really have any name and things like that. So basically, if I don't know your name and you are kind of like a hate speeches and things like that, how do I supposed to kind of like tell the government, German government, that dude, I don't know who is that particular user who is kind of like a things and that, because I don't know that. Okay, so in that situation, what do I supposed to do? How do I supposed to control that hate speeches and things and that? Okay, yeah. Well, basically only identity that I have is that ki kind of like somebody I'm actually thinking that na ki instead of blocking a person, I have to block the device. Okay, yeah. Because let me tell you one thing, I'm not kind of like collecting any kind of like information from the user, nothing really at all, but I'm actually collecting information from the kind of like a location and kind of like a somebody location of the user, and also kind of like a somebody device ID. Okay, yeah. Like a artifact should supposed to be recording on mobile phone, it does not record on any kind of computer, nothing really at all. Okay, yeah. So basically if I have that device ID number, like a mobile ID IP address number, okay, yeah, I have to block that device. Okay, yeah. And from that device, user will not gonna kind of like a somebody like a sign up another thing and kind of like do the things, and that it will not gonna happen. Okay, yeah. So block that device so that it would kind of like a things that he try to prevent that particular stuff. Okay, yeah. So this is what I have to do, and I have to be kind of like a figure it out the all the government policies regarding about that, because each government has a kind of like a different policy regarding about that. People will kind of like utilize this privacy filter for very wrong purposes, very wrong purposes. Okay, yeah. Like not everyone is a really good person. Everyone kind of like utilize privacy for very wrong purposes. In that situation, what do I supposed to do? Okay, yeah. I have to be kind of like a simply, if you are kind of like doing the hate speeches things and that and that and that, I have to be kind of like a find you. I have to kind of give the information to the government. The government wanted that, and there are almost like a 193 governments are actually here in world. Okay, yeah. Like if the US want this thing, then I have to be accept the other countries and things and that and that and that. Dude, how do I supposed to manage this thing? Okay, I need a kind of like a army of lawyers to kind of like a figure it out. How do I supposed to think that thing? Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like a very fucked up thing actually happened. Okay, yeah. So that's why I kind of like a build this system that every artifact is actually judged by the kind of like a not only by the people but as well as kind of like a somebody machine by AI to kind of like understand the what kind of like a consequences will gonna happen. But their contribution is only 30%, 70% actually judged by the people too. Okay, yeah. So there is a lot of like a kind of like a things like a that and that and that and that. Okay, yeah. So that's what I'm kind of like a trying to tell you. And basically is this thing na ki let me kind of like a tell you. Okay, yeah. Artifact, it add value in you, in like it add a value in me. The person that I am tomorrow is because of artifact, is because the person that I'm right now is because of artifact. Okay, yeah, that is no doubt at all. But imagine a kind of like a somebody is this thing that a kind of like a somebody artifact is a kind of like a somebody pencil. Okay, let's say a kind of like a very sharp pencil. Okay, yeah, you can draw a very good drawing from that pencil and you could improve yourself. But if you want, you could utilize this pencil to stab someone, to kill someone, to poke someone. This is what it is. This is what kind of like a things. Okay, yeah. Every action comes with the consequences. Good consequences, bad consequences. I have to make sure that good consequences happen more, bad consequences happen less, because it will happen. I cannot stop bad consequences. It will always be there. How much I try, it will always be there. The one thing that I'm gonna do is that ki kind of like minimize the bad consequences and uplift the good consequences. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that na ki privacy is a, yeah, I'm kind of like giving you privacy really essential for you, you understand that thing, but still is this thing na ki do not use this privacy for wrong purposes. Okay, yeah, because if you trying to do this thing now, what will gonna happen? Sorry about the disturbance. Okay, so this is a thing. Okay, thank you.